Good evening. With this first module, we'll begin to investigate some of the environmental challenges facing the world today. As we'll see, all living things are interconnected in ways that are crucial to our mutual survival. But of all God's creatures, we will also see that the one that has the greatest influence over all others is man. I like to begin this course each year by showing this particular graph because it very simply, very dramatically illustrates the problem that we are facing in the world today in terms of the environment. The graph shows the world's population from approximately 1000 AD and projected through about 2500 AD. You note that it has taken all of human history for our population to increase to 1 billion people, which occurred in approximately the late 1800s. It only took about 100 years for the population of the world to double to 2 billion. It took even less time, about 50 years, for the population to double to 4 billion, and it's projected that the population will double again to 8 billion by 2027. And in fact, the world population just passed 7 billion this past year. What does this mean? It means that there are a tremendous number of people on the earth in a very short time. In fact, the world's population has doubled just since 1970. And in fact, it's also been estimated that 5 to 10% of all the human beings who have ever lived are currently alive on our planet today. What does this mean about the world's resources? That's what we're going to investigate in this course. In Chapter 1, we're going to begin looking at the impact of this explosion in human population, particularly as it affects ecosystems around the world, global climate change, and biodiversity. We're also going to look at the discipline of environmental science and how it is impacting our understanding of how the planet works and our ability to perhaps deal with some of the issues that are being precipitated by human population increase. We're also going to look at some of the successes of the environmental movement in attempting to remediate the planet and help perhaps prepare the planet to sustain the larger populations that we're projecting for the future. In each chapter, we will address, one way or another, 3 unifying themes. The first is sound science. How do we know what we know about the environment? And how can we use that knowledge to help better preserve and protect our environment? The second theme is sustainability. What can we do to be sure that the world's resources are sufficient to sustain the human population that we currently have and are projecting will be on the planet in the not-so-distant future? And finally, stewardship. What must we do to protect our environment, to assure that the resources that we have for ourselves will still be there to pass down to our children? Finally, in Chapter 1, we're going to look at moving toward a sustainable future. What is it going to take in order to apply the knowledge that we have gained in a way that will assure that, in fact, there is a future for us and for our generations? To assist you in your reading of the text, I have developed what I call guided reading questions that will help you to focus on those elements of the material that I consider most important. You should read these questions ahead of time so that you're looking out for them as you go through the material. For Chapter 1, there are 9 guided reading questions. The first is, what happened on Easter Island? What are some of the similarities between what happened to them and what is happening in the world today? Number 2, cite 4 trends and the evidence behind them that indicate that the health of the planet is declining. Number 3, define the environment and give some examples of the successes of modern environmentalism. 4, what is the difference between real science and junk science? How can you tell them apart? Give an example of each type and why it fits that type. 5, what is sustainability? Why is it critical for the survival of the planet? Define sustainable yields, sustainable ecosystems, sustainable society, sustainable development. 6, What is stewardship? Give some examples of environmental stewardship. 7. What is the environmental justice movement? What is environmental racism? Give some examples. 8. How does justice become an issue between developing countries and developed countries? Give some examples. And 9. What is globalization, and how might it affect the issue of sustainability? Hopefully these guided reading questions will help you to focus on the material as you go through it and extract the most important information from the chapter that will help you to better understand the material as we go through it in the course.